Hey guys, Robert at 3D Printscape. So today I'm going to go over Revopoint's new Inspire 3D scanner. It's a budget camera in their lineup. It's geared to be a little bit cheaper, but overall I'm finding it quite nice. In this video I'm going to go over the unboxing and give you some of my initial thoughts on my first use. For the first use, I did use the included turntable and statue. I'm not sure the statue was the best example because frankly I think I'm going to get more value from this camera actually using it more as a handheld scanner and using the mobile app, which I'll do a separate video covering. But to me, I think that's really where a lot of the value is, being able to scan other components and everything. But at the price point, it does support things like detecting markers and that kind of stuff that it comes with as well. So it just helps with accuracy. This scanner also uses Revopoint's scanning software, which is included with the cost of the actual camera itself, which is actually pretty nice software. And then, like I mentioned, they have a mobile version as well, which supports iOS and Android, which I think a lot of the other scanners on the market only support Android. So having iOS is a nice feature, especially for me because I use iPhone. This camera comes with two different setups, so with or without the mobile kit. The mobile kit's pretty much a separate battery pack, just so you can use it without having to be connected to computer for power. If it's available, if you're looking at getting this, I would get the one with the mobile kit. I got the one without it because at the time I got this, the mobile kit was sold out and I wanted to kind of just test it out. So I'm going to start off by doing a quick unboxing and then we'll jump into actually using the camera and walking through the first set of scans and edits. Using the statue here on the turntable, and then give you my feedback and thoughts at the end of the video. So with that, let's go ahead and jump over to it. But if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. It'll really help the channel grow. Thanks. Alright guys, so here we have the Revopoint Inspire 3D scanner. Let's go ahead and unbox it. Alright, so now that we got the plastic off, we can actually open it up. Alright, the first thing we have here is a calibration board. Depending upon what you're doing, you end up using a calibration board or these markers on the actual device that you're scanning. So there are different options. We'll go into that later on. But yeah, you got your calibration board, some additional markers here, and all of that. Right, then we have our documentation here. Then the next thing we have here is a USB-A to USB-C adapter. A nice little statue here that we can use for our first test scan to make sure everything is working properly. Our USB cable, the stand for the scanner itself, which also opens up, a USB to USB-C cable. Then I will say that they package this pretty well. Everything is nicely padded, so nothing should get damaged in shipping. Right. Now we have our base tray, which has different adjustments here for speed, so that you can actually control how fast it's spinning. And then, of course, the actual camera itself right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up the camera, and then we'll put it on the stand really quick, just so we have it set up in a way that won't get damaged. So just go ahead and open up this bag here. And then here's the camera from the front here, outside of the packaging. Then on the back here, we got a button, USB-C port. And on the bottom, we have a screw hole. This is pretty common for most cameras. It looks to be about the same size. So this, for our stand here, is going to just screw onto it. And then we can go ahead and open up the tripod. And then you can adjust the height and everything and move it around as needed, which is going to help with getting into position for the scans. And then once you're in place, go ahead and tighten this to kind of keep it there. So overall, I think the build quality seems pretty good. It doesn't feel cheap. Feels like it's a decent quality. So let's go ahead and power on the actual spinning tray, and we'll take a look at that real quick. All right, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at the base here before I jump over to the computer. On this side, we have multiple switches. I mentioned this earlier, but you've got the speed dial, so you can control how fast it's actually turning. But selecting CW will have that rotate clockwise. Selecting CCW is counterclockwise. So let's go ahead and plug it in, and I'll kind of show you what this is doing. One thing to note here is I'm using USB-C cable for the camera, just because of how I have this plugged in right now. So the actual one that you'll want to use with this is the smaller one, not the one with this little screw piece here that is for the camera. Alright, so now that I got this plugged in, let's go ahead and turn it on. You'll want to be able to adjust the speed based on any gaps or issues that you see in the software during the scanning. So here, this is pretty much max speed, and then you can turn counterclockwise on the knob back here to go slower. So that's pretty much as slow as it goes there, which is barely turning. If you're not in a hurry, having it go maybe not this slow, but slower is probably going to yield better results than it going faster, but we'll have to test all that in the software, which is what I want to do next. So what we're going to do is go ahead and jump over to the computer. I'll walk you through installing the software and getting everything connected, and then we'll go ahead and do some test scans. Alright guys, so we're here at Revopoint's website, and we want to go to download the software for our scanner. The fact that they provide the software is actually really nice, and it's pretty easy to use. But we'll just go to the download center and download the version for whatever OS you're using. I'm using Windows 11, so I'm just going to download the Windows version. And then we'll go ahead and extract that. Then once you extract it to zip file, you'll see the actual application. We'll go ahead and launch that. And just walk through the install. So choose your language, and you can go down here, change your install path. I'm just going to put in the default install path and hit install. Alright, then hit complete. And then you can close out of this folder and go ahead and launch it. It put a shortcut on my desktop, so I'm just launching it from there. Alright, when you plug the camera in for the first time, it's going to prompt you to run through the calibration, so we're going to do that. So basically here, you want to do the vertical calibration, so you're going to hold it and then spin it the way that it's showing you in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick. Alright, now that that's done, we'll go ahead and do the horizontal calibration. So I'm just going to hit start. And our calibration is now complete. Once you finish that calibration, you'll be brought to this screen. It shows that your scanner is connected, the name of the scanner, and how it's connected. And also, it's worth noting that there is a separate calibration where it's calibrating the cameras. There's a calibration square that the unit comes with, but it was calibrated, it looks like, from the factory on 9/2/23, so that would have been before I purchased it. So it should be good to go. If I run into any issues, I can potentially calibrate it again, but it does come calibrated from what I was able to tell. So I played around with the software a little bit before getting to this part of the video. There's a slight learning curve, but it's not too bad. I'll kind of show you a couple of things that I figured out as I was going. So let's go ahead and start a new project. I just set the statue that the kit comes with on the turntable, and it's running. We'll have to make some adjustments for the positioning, which you'll see over here on the left. But let's talk about the settings over on the right. So you have different accuracy settings. Standard accuracy is what I tend to use the most. There is high accuracy as well for some of the cameras. Just keep that in mind. Your tracking mode is feature or marker. If you're using markers on some of the round objects or anything, you'll want to switch over to that. But most of the time you'll leave it at feature tracking. And then your object type, you got general object, dark object, or face. For most of the items you'll be scanning, it'll probably be general object. I'm just scanning the statue here using the turntable, but a lot of times I think a lot of the value is going to come into being able to actually hold the scanner and scan different types of items to get what you're looking for, because most of the time you're not going to have something on the turntable like this unless you're trying to replicate like a smaller figure or something along those lines. Now, if you want to do color scanning, you turn this on, which typically I will leave on. And then the next one here is hide surfaces. So this does a good job at hiding the actual turntable and the desk that it's on. If I don't have this enabled, like if I just do a quick start scan, you'll see that it picks up a lot of like the table itself and everything in the background. But turning that on helps it out quite a bit. So I'm just hit cancel here. And that is a bigger issue if your camera is far away. So if you switch to like fast tracking and you have the camera, fast tracking here, or high speed, and you have the camera further away to get it into the excellent range, you'll notice that more, because I noticed that quite a bit with one of my tests. So I turn this on. And over here on the left, I just have exposure and the RGB cameras both set to auto. That way I don't have to worry about it. It does a pretty good job. Then over here, it shows you if your object is too close or too far from the camera. We'll circle back to this in a second. But first, we want to make sure that this blue cross here is focused in the center of the object. If you don't, you're going to have weird issues where it's kind of jumping around. If you look there, it jumps around, especially if you have this object or objects laying down where it's longer. It tends to jump around a little bit and lose track. Those are just a couple little things that I had some issues with that I figured I'd pass along as tips as you're going. So we're going to go ahead and position the camera so that this is in the center. And you also want to make sure that whatever you're scanning, so in this case the statue, is as centered as possible on the turntable, because if it's not, especially if it's something that's laying down or longer, it's going to jump around, kind of the same issue. So I'm going to move the camera and align this. Alright, that looks pretty good, and you can see it's not really jumping around too much here. And now we got to look at the distance again. You can see here it's a tad too close. I'm going to push it back a tad bit. You want to get as much of this bar in the excellent range as possible. Alright, there we go. I think that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit start scan. We're going to let this go a full rotation, then we'll pause it and then lay it on its side so we can get a little bit more of the imaging that it's going to miss, which I'll show you here in a second. So let me go ahead and hit start. And you can see it's capturing the frames down here. All right, then we can go ahead and pause it. So if you look at the statue, or look at the what it's captured so far, you can see at the top here it's missing data, and if you look at the bottom, it doesn't have any data here either. That's because it's just capturing the front. So what I'm going to do is lean it on the side. Okay, now that that's centered, I'm also going to lower this a little bit as well to make sure that we're within the right range here. Right, that looks pretty good there, so I'm going to go ahead and hit start. You'll see that it found the pattern where it was at before and is starting to collect the data there and filling in some of the gaps. And this is cool if you scan over an object multiple times, especially if you're doing things by hand. That detection is nice, but it does look for, at least from what I read, at least a 10% overlap so it can match the patterns. All right, now I think we're good there. You can go ahead and pause it and then hit complete. And then we'll go over to the editing side. The editing is where it takes a little bit to get used to. You can take multiple scans and actually merge them together as well. But in this case, I got much better results just doing it this way. So what we'll do is go over to one click and then go ahead and hit apply. It's going to pull in what it thinks is the best settings. Alright, and here's what we got at the end. Overall, it looks pretty good. We have to chop off this. It picked up part of the stand, which isn't a big deal. The biggest issue I've had with this statue in general is right here. No matter what I've done, I've tried like 10 different approaches to scanning this. I always get this extra data right here. I don't know if it's because of the way that the light is. I've tried adding additional light and everything, but I keep getting that with this scan. But I've only had this thing for a couple days now, so I wanted to get a video out kind of showing you my initial thoughts and some basic steps. So I was okay with leaving this in the video, but now let's go ahead and cut this out here. So we'll go over to isolation and under mesh. So depending upon what you're looking for the outcome, if you want an STL to drop into Cura, it's going to end up being the mesh one. So you'll go ahead and detect. It's going to see that this is all red. So just hit apply and it will remove that for you. All right, so that took care of that. Now this front piece here, I couldn't figure out how to get rid of. I think I just need more time with the software and learning some of the stuff, so I'm going to leave it for now. It doesn't really change anything except for the actual output itself. Everything I'm still showing you here is still valid, so leaving it here is fine for the purpose of this. So now you're going to want to, I guess before I do that, there's one more thing. If you want to click here, you can actually expand the entire model and you can see every frame that it's selected, and you can delete or modify individual frames as well. So like here's frame 0. So I thought that was kind of cool. All right, so now I'm going to export, and then you can do all models or whichever one you want. If you want an STL, you want the mesh model, and then you're going to want to change the save type over to STL, and that's going to save it there. Then we're going to pull up Cura really quick. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that file in. So you can see there is that one spot here again. I don't think Cura is going to know what to do with it either. But outside of that, the detail looks pretty good. We're going to want to change how we're printing this. So we'll go ahead and select the model and then select our bottom for the section to lay flat. Then we can go ahead and slice it, see what it looks like. All right, that's going to take a look at what it looks like on the bottom. Looks like it thinks the bottom's not completely flat, so I'll have to look into that a bit more. But overall, we got all the detail and everything on the statue. And that one spot is just going to actually fall right off. It'll look like a support, so it won't be an issue. So this will actually print just fine, with the exception of the base might be a little bit weird. I haven't seen this before, but it's got to be something to do with how it was sliced. But at the end of the day, I think this will actually print just fine. But overall, in under about 10 minutes, we were able to scan the item, make a couple edits, and get it to the point where you're able to import it into Cura and kick off a print. And a lot of that time was actually the time it was taken to process the changes, because there is quite a bit of data. But overall, I would say with only having this for a couple days and only playing around with the software a couple times here, with the amount of time I spent on this, I think that it definitely is a viable solution. I just got to get a little bit more comfortable with it. And then I also want to do some scans actually holding the scanner. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you can get that mobile pack with the battery, that'll be nice. I've got an extra battery pack, so I'll end up using that so I can do it. But I'll make more videos covering that, and probably more videos going into the software more once I get a little bit more hands-on with it as well. Alright, so now that we have an object that we can actually print, I wanted to kind of give you my feedback and my thoughts on the camera so far. Now this is based on only using this for about 3 or 4 days, so we'll be doing more videos on this camera and also the mobile side of it as well, because I feel the mobile side is where a lot of the value is going to come in, not just using it on a turntable like this. So the Inspire model here is considered a budget camera in the Revopoint lineup. With that being said, I don't feel it really cut any corners or anything. All the materials are nice. Everything is decent quality. So with that, I'm pretty happy with the camera for the price, and it puts it in a more competitive field for a lot of the hobbyists. So similar to some of the other, like the Creality cameras as examples. So they're in the same ballpark price-wise. So with that, let's talk about the software a little bit. There is definitely a small learning curve. If you never use 3D scanners or that type of software, it takes a little bit to get used to. And then like I showed in the video, there are still some quirks and stuff you might have to edit out afterwards. And I'm still getting used to that software to be able to edit those type of specific things. But that's not uncommon, having to edit and everything after you do the scan. I do think if you're looking at scanning like parts, so one of the things I want to do is print another battery clip for one of my RC cars. That I'm not going to have any type of issues with, at least I don't think I will, because it's going to be a lot easier. It's just like the statues where there's some weird lighting, like right through here. It put an extra little line there, which if you're doing a test print, like when I showed you in the preview in Cura, it would have just dropped a little bit of filament there, and it wouldn't have actually impacted the print at all. So just keep that in mind. I don't think that's anything negative about the Revopoint software. I think that's just getting used to 3D scanning software in general. And I do feel that once you're used to the software a little bit, you'll be able to scan something like this, get it edited, and create the STL file in probably under 10 minutes, unless there's a lot of editing required. So that's pretty good. I've used some of the other scanners on the market, and there's little quirks with each of them. Unless you're getting into like the super expensive ones, there's just going to be some things you'll have to work around and just get used to. I think once the technology advances a little bit more, the better technology might become available in some of the more budget-friendly models. But if you're not looking at spending like $1,000 plus on a scanner, it's just the reality we have. It's kind of like the 3D printers. When they first came out, they used to be a lot more expensive and had a lot of limitations. And now they're starting to drop down in price pretty drastically and come with a lot more features and actually be better printers overall. So I expect the same thing to happen with the scanners and stuff as this market continues to grow and there's a need for it. Then like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are looking at getting the scanner, it comes with or without the mobile kit. I would opt to get the one with the mobile kit with the battery pack, because that'll help you quite a bit if you're doing any type of scans that you can't be connected to the computer for. I've got a couple battery banks, so I'm just going to connect this to the battery bank and it will work. But if you have the option to get the mobile kit, I think it makes sense because it'll be nicely integrated. It just wasn't available when I got this one. Alright, so now let's talk about my recommendation. As the 3D scanner market's getting more popular, there's becoming a lot more options available at a more competitive price point. I feel that what this one provides at the price is fair. I think it's a good bargain. You're getting the software and a good quality camera and everything included, one that's capable of doing a lot more than some of the other cheaper ones can. But again, it's not the cheapest camera on the market. It is a budget camera in this lineup, but there are other cheaper cameras on the market. I have worked with some of the cameras that were considered truly budget, like the $250 range, and I wasn't very happy with the results. The images were spotty at best. I mean, you couldn't make it work. They didn't come with any of the mobile options. To me, I think the ability to connect this to my phone and do those scans just on the go, I mean, that's really nice. So overall, I do think this is a good camera, especially at the price point. If you are looking at other cameras on the market, make sure you get one that has the mobile integrations. To me, that's one of the biggest selling points with some of the newer scanners. Being able to not have to be tied to a computer to scan everything is really nice, especially if you want to take this out to your garage or something and scan something out there that's too large to bring in, or just kind of a mess in general. It just gives you a lot more options. But I think if you would have purchased this one, you would not be disappointed. But there are also other ones that are good in the same price point. But with that said, I am glad that I went with this one. I am really happy with it, and I think I'll be able to do a lot more cool videos coming up, just trying different things out with it. If you have any questions about what I covered or would like to see any other videos, go ahead and leave a comment below or join us on Discord. Thanks.